I'll be honest with you, I wasn't excited when Phil came on stage at Keynote and said that the iPhone 8 was going to be made from glass and aluminum, not just aluminum. Why? Because aluminum, in my opinion, is a lot stronger than glass. So why would there be a layer of glass on a $1,000 device that I might occasionally drop? But I will say it does look a little nicer. And maybe I was just really hoping for something different after staring at the same size, same feeling iPhone for the last 3 years. The question I had was, will the iPhone 8 break as easily as the iPhone 4 did, which was the last iPhone to have a glass back, 4S, I guess. I watched my sister get her brand new iPhone 4S and drop it within 3 minutes of taking it out of the thing and cracking the bottom of the iPhone. Like it was awful. So I'm wondering, is the iPhone 8 as, we'll say, flimsy? In the next few minutes, you're gonna see what I did to this iPhone 8 to make it look like this. It is not a very pretty phone anymore. First thing I wanted to know was this: would the glass crack if I just dropped it on the corner of the iPhone? Technically it shouldn't, because the edge of the iPhone is still aluminum, so I was kind of curious to know if the impact would make it through the aluminum and crack the glass. So I cleaned off a section of the garage, took the plastic wrapper off my new iPhone 8 that I had just picked up 30 minutes prior, and dropped it port first. Now, part of me was expecting for this video to be done at this point because, well, I was really thinking the glass was going to break, but to my surprise, it didn't. I subsequently turned it around and dropped the camera side first, and something interesting happened. It looks like the plate that the glass is adhered to came apart, but the glass didn't actually break. This doesn't look too bad when you consider that the other alternative is to have cracked glass. So after that, I went back to my kitchen and performed a variety of different scratch tests with a variety of different day-to-day items. Now, from my perspective, the glass used on the iPhone 8 should be about as strong as your normal treated tempered glass screen protector. I've done a ton of screen protector reviews over the years, so I kind of have a good sense of just how strong glass can get the stuff that you put on your iPhones anyways. So I kind of had an expectation for the iPhone 8 already going to these scratch tests, and well, I was slightly surprised, slightly. So for the scratch tests, I used Monty's paws, which did absolutely nothing. Then I moved to coins, put them in a little Ziploc bag and just jostled them around, and the coins really didn't do anything. Keys, pockets, and iPhones, they go hand in hand, and keys really didn't do anything, kind of like Monty's paws and the coins. I took my kitchen knife, and I tend to pride myself in keeping my kitchen knife sharp, as shown by my paper test, but the sharp knife didn't do anything. Then I proceeded to treat the iPhone like a chopping board. I was a little teary-eyed at this moment, but it's because of the onions, not because I was sad that I was mauling my brand new iPhone. I also took a rock I found near my house, and this was actually what I was surprised at, was that the rock actually scratched the back of the iPhone. Now, if you look closely, it doesn't look like that rock actually gets to the glass. I think it's just scratching off the coating off the back of the iPhone. So that was the piece that was surprising to me, because I don't think it actually hit the glass. I was probably just taking off bits and pieces of the coating, because none of the damage to the back of this iPhone actually occurs where the scuff marks actually are, which is kind of neat. The last thing that I scratched this iPhone with was the file found on my Leatherman, and this thing just destroys any sort of screen protector regardless of the hardness rating on it. This did not surprise me. It just scratched the crap out of the back of the iPhone. So, ultimately, goodbye Apple logo. So if this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, I do encourage you to subscribe. I've got a ton of product reviews lined up, as well as a camera comparison between the iPhone 7s and the 8s. And basically everything that I'm doing for the iPhone 8s, I'm gonna do for the iPhone Xs or 10s in about 28 days. So after all of that, I was curious to see what would happen in a back first drop on rocks. I went to the side of my house where we have a bunch of river rock along the pathway, and at this very moment, I felt very guilty because I was taking my iPhone into the secluded area and I was going to do something bad to it. And it just felt really weird setting up the camera and filming all this, but hey, I had to answer the question, would it break from the river rock drop? So the first backdrop was from chest height, and surprisingly, it resulted in nothing happening. I posted this on Instagram, and I was very surprised. The rock that scratched the back of the iPhone came from the same area, so, the fact that it didn't crack, that was kind of surprising. I decided to take the iPhone 8 to over 6 feet and dropped it back first again, and surprisingly, nothing happened. This, to me, was the pinnacle of the iPhone 8's toughness. At this point, I thought the iPhone 8 was gonna be invincible. But the truth always comes out when I drop a device on the sidewalk in front of my house. The sidewalk in front of my house looks flat, But if you look closely, there is a lot of things that pop out. There's a lot of sharp edges and everything. So every single iPhone screen, every single glass screen protector that I've dropped onto the sidewalk usually breaks. So I did not have high hopes for this iPhone. So I set up all my cameras and I dropped it from 3.5 feet, and the back of the iPhone died. This crack was actually quite interesting because the back of the iPhone was actually sticking out a little bit. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but it's definitely not flush. At this point, I realized that my biggest problem with this new iPhone is the fact that if you were to break your iPhone, you've got 2 panes of potential finger slicing glass to deal with instead of just one. But after that moment of realization, I realized that the front of the iPhone was in pristine condition, so I decided to drop it face first to see if it would fare any better. It did not. Now, I will say that the front of the iPhone, me dropping it on the sidewalk like that is normal. That is not out of the ordinary. It is not weaker. It performs exactly the same as all the other iPhones that I've dropped on that sidewalk. So that's a good thing, I guess. Now for the water test, I really wanted to get the iPhone all broken up before submerging it, so I dropped it a few more times, and the last drop, from about 3 feet, I kind of tossed it, resulted in a giant crevice on the back of my iPhone. I will say that this is probably the coolest type of damage I've seen on my iPhone in the last 4 years. So, with the water test, I took the extremely beat up iPhone and dunked it in the sink, and I just let it sit for a while. Now, when I checked in at about the 5-minute mark, the screen was off and I thought that the iPhone was dead. Nope, I forgot to turn off the auto lock, so the screen just went to sleep. So I decided to turn all the battery saving features off, and just threw it back into the sink. And I let it sit in there till about 51 minutes, and by that time the screen was starting to go a little funky, but the iPhone, all the touch screen, all the buttons still kind of worked. So at the end of the day, this iPhone 8 isn't weak. Well, I'll say the back will break if you were to do everything I just did to it, but it took quite a bit. It took the ultimate screen breaker, the sidewalk in front of my house, to crack the back of the iPhone. Yes, the impact from the very first drop resulted in parts of the glass underneath, or the steel kind of breaking or cracking, but to me that's a good alternative to actually having a cracked back iPhone. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with this iPhone, just how durable it is, considering it is covered in glass. And glass and aluminum, they tend to bend or break. I do like the texture of the glass on the iPhone. It adds a lot more, it makes it easier to handle. As I found from the iPhone 6.4 that every iteration of the iPhone, it tended to get, the matte coating got slicker and slicker and slicker, and I didn't like that. It was hard to use the big 7 Plus without a case, but with the glass back on the iPhone 8, it makes it a lot easier. So, you know, if handling is an important issue for you, then now you know. So this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, again, do subscribe. I got a ton of other content coming out, so do stay tuned. Comparison tests, speed tests, camera tests, and again, everything I'm doing for the 8, I'm gonna do to the 10s. And I'm excited to see how well that device holds up. Thanks for watching. And yes, Monty is wearing a bow tie. And yes, we match.